This is amazing! I feel incredible! Yes, 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 I can win! I feel great! I can do this! Yes!
It's the Art of Action Figures looking at the Bandai Tamashii Nations Dragon Ball Z, SH Figuarts, Nail. Just Nail. That's it. No proud Namekian warrior, no Guru's last defender. Just Nail. Depending on where you live, this is a premium Bandai or Tamashii Web exclusive. I've always liked Nail. He's just cool as a cucumber, and if I'm not mistaken, is really the first character to take on Frieza in battle in his first form. He's just mad because he had to get out of his pod for this. And I'll tell you what, it sure sets the tone for the Frieza saga. Things were quite dark from there on out. Quick recap, while Goku and the rest are busy finishing off the Ginyu Force, Frieza is trying to discover the password to summon Porunga, pays a visit to Guru, who has already given the password to Dende, and Nail is left to bravely confront Frieza and stall for time so that Dende can deliver the password to our Earthling heroes who have stolen away Frieza's ship so that they can, I guess, wish Piccolo and the other victims of the Saiyans back to life. I'm not sure what good that's going to do them against Frieza, or what exactly their plan was here. And as we'll see, the accessories that he comes with really tell the story of how that's going to go, which I think is pretty cool that he comes with so much pulled directly from the story. Nail's appearance is brief but memorable, unless we're talking about DBZ Abridged, parts of which have aged like milk, but I do think the decision to have Nail continue to live in Piccolo's head for the rest of the story was one of its creative high points, and probably made a lot more Nail fans than there would be otherwise. I've already had a little bit of time to play around with Nail, and I kind of think this figure is going to be a bit of a sleeper hit for this year. Starting with a quick tour of the packaging, it's the same height and same width as a standard retail box. It's just a little bit deeper this way. On the front, along the bottom, all your brand logos: Bandai Tamashii Nations, Dragon Ball Z, Tamashii Web exclusive, holographic Toei Animation sticker, holographic Tamashii Nations quality sticker, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits, made in China, intended for ages 15 and up, warning, choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years, product may differ from photo. On the front, a full color photo of Nail looking cold. The window cutout follows the outline of the photo. On the window is printed SH Figuarts Nail in white text this time. The window continues onto the left-hand side and the top to let light in. And through it we can see the figure, some of the accessories, and behind him the accent color, which, get this, is green, and wraps around the whole interior of the box, as well as this side panel art. There's another on the top and the bottom, and I think they've done a nice job with this set. Sometimes they're a little bit haphazard, but I think these do a nice job showing off the different expressions and the cool arm regeneration part. I think these do a good job showing off the figure. And around the back is a collage of the full color promotional images for the figure, along with your Bandai Namco distribution info. Now let's go ahead and take him out. And you know what that sound means. Sharp object warning. Already used it to slice the tape on the right. Carefully feed the dull edge of the blade towards the back of the box. Inside, the flap reveals more green accent color and some instructions, which we are actually going to take a quick look at because they're going to come in handy. At the top, here's how to swap his regenerating forearm. And more importantly, at the bottom, this shows you how to swap out his stole, I guess is what this article of clothing is called. I've always just called it a scarf. Importantly, it shows you that in order to remove his coat, you need to remove the head, of course, but you also want to remove both the arms at the bicep joint. Let's take a quick look at the accessories in the tray. Nail comes with 5 alternate heads, including a stoic, serious-looking face and 4 degrees of suffering, I suppose you could call it. He is shouting, looking to the left, gritting teeth, looking forward, shouting and wincing with his left eye closed. This is specifically the face when he regenerates his forearm. And finally, his expression when he's on the verge of death and asking Piccolo to fuse with him. He comes with 4 pairs of hands, including 2 fists, 2 splayed finger open palm hands, 2 clenched finger open palm hands, and 2 flat chopping hands. And finally, some special accessories for Nail. We have his alternate stole piece, which is just this collar that he's wearing on top of the coat that he takes off when he's fighting Frieza, and a very cool effect piece where he's regenerating his right forearm. He has a little bit of extra protection around him for his coat. Now let's see how he stacks up next to some other characters. Here's Nail next to First Form Frieza and another man of style, Captain Ginyu. A Saiyan raised on Earth, Goku, with the head from the Flying Nimbus set, and Frieza Saga, Vegeta, who is still asleep standing up, don't ask me how, Frieza Saga, Krillin, Gohan, and can't forget about Journey to Planet Namek, Bulma. Fit check, it's Piccolo, the proud Namekian, and here's where I would put my Dende figure, and a group shot of everybody we have before and after. And anyone who says Dragon Ball is just silly and doesn't have any stakes must not have seen this part. Now let's talk about Nail's aesthetic details, starting with his coat, and then I'll take the coat off so we can see the rest of the figure a bit better. But as you can see, he's wearing this sort of sleeveless navy blue coat that is molded in a somewhat flexible plastic material, although it hasn't really been designed for any vigorous action poses, which I guess is fair since Nail takes the coat off before he fights. Some very soft wrinkles, nothing too sharp or angular, a little bit of a taper that kind of follows the outline of his torso and pants. And that's pretty much all there is to it. The collar is glued at the top, which makes it a little bit more difficult to swap the coat, but let's go ahead and do that now. As we saw in the instructions, you want to remove the arms at the bicep joint, not at the shoulder joint. Who would do such a thing? If you do, prepare to spend several minutes in frustration attempting to reattach it, just due to how the butterfly joint sits in there. It tends to just kind of like cave into the body as you push the shoulder in. So removing them at the bicep. Then we're going to remove the head, being mindful of the antenna. And then because of how the coat tapers in at the side, it can still be a little bit tricky, even with the arms removed, to pull it up over his head. So I find you really want to push these shoulders all the way in. Start with one shoulder at a time, then the neck, and that's been the easiest method. And while we're here, I'll just show you how I put it back on the same way, just to show you the reverse. I'll start with one shoulder, then the neck, feed that through, and finally cover over the last shoulder. And that's been pretty reliable. I think it puts like the minimum stress on the coat plastic itself. I do imagine just over time, if you do that a bunch, it's going to get maybe a little stretched and scuffed on the inside at this like pinched in portion. And fortunately, these arms are pretty easy to remove and reattach, but it also is at no risk of coming off accidentally. Go ahead and lay the collar piece and reattach his head. And there we go. And there we have Nail ready for action. Without the coat, you can adjust the shoulders to your liking, and I think this just looks excellent. His bare skin parts are molded in green base plastic, and it all matches up pretty consistently. And then his pink pads and red lining are all painted on, and it's pretty clean for the most part. There's a couple little imperfections here and there in some of the pink, and then I have a little bit of a red splotch on his left tricep there. But overall, I think it looks great. I think the sculpt of the torso looks really good. He's got a very powerful looking chest. He's got an 8-pack of Namekian abs, and then the wrinkles in his skin are really sharp. The butterfly joints have the red stripe kind of continued right at the corner there where it meets the pecs. They also have the rings around the outside. The only place where his anatomy feels a little discontinuous to me is at the bicep connection. It's a very hard line right here. Maybe if this was just like rounded a little bit in there, it would flow more naturally into the bicep. Each of his hands is molded green and has white paint for his sharp fingernails. As far as like pad placement on the arms, I strongly prefer putting them on the sides like this versus the way that the superhero Piccolo figure was done, where they're on the front and back. I think the alternating of the pads on the side to the front of the bicep to the sides of the forearm just has a better flow to it. And it's also nice that they don't have to paint the pad onto the elbow joint. He has a blue belt and then some bright white pants. I need to turn the brightness down just a little bit. There is some very subtle greenish blue shading, and it's really most apparent like on the inner legs here. It seems to be applied shooting the paint this way so that it hits these down surfaces. It's really subtle. Honestly, I don't personally care if they do that or not. It doesn't stand out as bad or anything. I don't mind if his pants are just white. I think the sculpt is sharp enough that you get plenty of natural shadows in there. Do you need paint to tell you there's a shadow here? Around the back, the knee joints are pretty well integrated there. And then down to his feet, he has the classic pointed toe Namekian shoes. If these parts seem familiar, it's because everything except the feet, torso, the collar, and the heads is reusing parts from Piccolo, the Proud Namekian. You can see the arms are the same, the belt, the waist, and the pants are all the same. And I am perfectly fine with that, especially because those parts on Piccolo work really well, especially the legs. They have the 2.0 hip design, but these were always some of the best, able to get full side splits. They look pretty clean. He also has a knee joint that is closer to the Ultimate Gohan superhero knee joint than the 2.0 Goku. Really, the only things articulation-wise that I don't love about Proud Namekian Piccolo are the 2.0 dumbbell ankles, which just don't give enough range in any direction. And I'm happy to report, since there are so many parts shared between these two, you can actually completely replace Piccolo's feet with nails, and now you have a Piccolo with the best ankle joints that Tamashii has done. And I kind of regret not getting a second nail figure for the parts, and then, I don't know, taking the remaining nail parts and creating like another kit-bashed Namekian warrior. We'll see if Tamashii ever decides to upgrade Piccolo themselves. As you can see, I already upgraded the cape to wired fabric. Just upgrading the cape and the ankles breathes a whole lot of new life into Proud Namekian Piccolo. Let's go ahead and give Nail his feet back. Aside from the feet, arms we saw are also identical. So in theory, you can give Nail Piccolo's crossed arms, although in practice, due to the different shoulder design, I find it difficult to line up on both sides, but definitely fakeable for a photo. You can give Piccolo karate chop hands, which he does not come with. You can also give him Nail's wincing expression and the regenerating forearm. Although I do recommend for this that you use Nail's right arm, since it's designed to be removed at the forearm, whereas Piccolo's is not. And taking things the other way, you can equip Piccolo's severed arm, special beam cannon hand, and is this the firing the special beam cannon face? And of course, if you're feeling really brave, the waists are identical, so you could just completely swap the shirtless torso onto Piccolo if you wanted to give him a battle damage look. The torsos weren't readily coming off when I tried it myself, so I don't want to risk it, but I've already seen people do it online, and yeah, it looks cool. It looks about what you would expect for a shirtless Piccolo. There's maybe a little bit of difference in skin tone on some parts, but it's subtle enough I don't think it's really too detectable. And if you're like me and you think Proud Namekian Piccolo's neutral faces don't look anything like Piccolo, you can swap Nail's neutral face onto Piccolo, and it's maybe a little thin, like in the jaw. It makes him look a little younger and can maybe work for like early DBZ. Just overall, I think it looks more like Piccolo than this, which then you can use to make, I don't know, a random Namekian warrior that doesn't look like Nail or Piccolo. And here's just a quick shot of what Nail looks like with no collar. They've maybe extended his neck just a little bit to give him some clearance over the collar, which I think is a good thing since he's always wearing it. And swapping in Piccolo's head, it seems like at least some of that extension in the neck is due to placement of the head socket, as his does seem to sit just a little bit lower. For Nail's articulation, the head is on a ball hinge going into the neck, and the neck has another ball peg going into the body. With all of that, the collar piece is floating, so it can slide around to accommodate the neck movement as needed. And altogether, he looks up just a little bit, and the collar does start to kind of run away from his body there, just due to the shape of the back of his head. Looking down, he can completely bury his face, and then the hinge is in a forward-backward position right now, but even with that, he can tilt easily 30 degrees. You could maybe squeak a little bit more out if you spun the hinge around so it was going side to side. And of course, swivel and tilt with a little bit of like off-axis resistance from the hinge that you just want to be careful about. A little bit more limited than I like to see. I think the Games Begin Goku's neck peg has been my favorite that they've done so far. And speaking of the Games Begin Goku, Nail's shoulders aren't the dynamic movable shoulder system, but they're basically the same internal joints. I don't know what exactly classifies as dynamic movable shoulders, whether it's like the overlay pieces or the soft plastic or what. The inner joint is exactly the same, and so you can expect some great range, although Nail does not have soft torso or shoulder cap pieces. These are hard plastic, which does limit the crossbody butterfly joint range a little bit. I also find the shoulders are quite tight, not scary tight, but squeaky tight, and when you try to swivel the shoulder, it tends to rotate the entire butterfly socket and not just the arm. But I find that actually does help. Given the shape of the butterfly joint, it's narrower at the bottom than the top. That does actually increase the crossbody range a little bit. And altogether, it's not the best range, but still respectable. Crosses his hands in the front. Nearly touches them together behind his back. And you can use this red line as an indicator for where exactly this should be aligned if you get lost. But he can also raise his arms up above his head until they run into his collar piece. But yeah, aside from being really squeaky and a little bit tricky to move as an assembly, the range is nice. And given that there's basically a dumbbell joint on a hinge inside operating the socket piece, you get a ton of posability out of that. You can pose his shoulders so that they're super duper wide, or you can make him look a little bit more casual, relaxed, and I really like that. We have a ball hinge at the shoulder itself that raises his arm up to about 90 degrees before it starts to transfer to the butterfly joint, which gets him maybe another 30, 45. And then, as I showed, the arm does swivel around on that ball, but it's a little tight and squeaky. And if I wasn't holding the butterfly with this finger, you'll see it's actually the butterfly that wants to rotate, which is maybe not quite right. I don't know. Bicep swivels, double hinge elbow, 135 degrees. And it looks pretty nice when bent all the way. Standard Figuarts ball hinge wrists go up and down and in and out, whatever orientation you want. The torso has a ball peg going down into that old 2.0 style hinge that's like pinned at the front and goes like this. then a second ball joint going into the waist. Altogether, it actually moves very, very well. Here's crunching forward all the way. He starts to separate from the waist at the back, but pushing 90 degrees. And he can do looking inside his footline trick. Because of that hinge in there, it gives you a little bit of clearance over the abdomen, which helps you avoid scuffing that really nice paint job on there. Going back is a little bit more limited since that hinge only goes forward. Still gets 45 degrees or so. And altogether he can look up about that much. You do get a bit of a hole under his chest, but definitely would rather have the range than 0 open gaps. The side-to-side tilt is basically utilizing the 2 ball joints and is a little bit limited, but decent, maybe 30 degrees. Both ball joints work as swivels, so it gives you pretty fluid motion in the torso. Again, a little squeaky overall. The waist and the legs are exactly the same as Piccolo Proud Namekian, which is a good thing. Those are some of the best legs with this 2.0 style hip cap design, sometimes called like a 2.5, just because 1, it works better than a typical 2.0, and 2, the sculpt is a little bit more well integrated, especially the knees. These are closer to the 3.0 Gohan knees than the original like 2.0 Goku baggy pants knees. But altogether, swivel hinges let you swivel the legs forward and back, kicks out to the side just a bit from the back. From that side, does look awfully segmented if you look at it from there. When you bring the leg forward, I think the intended effect is this looks like his butt. You tell me, I'm not totally convinced. If you bring the torso forward at the hips, it does let you kick the leg up pretty well. The side-to-side hinges are one of the good parts, giving you a full 180-degree side split. They probably could have smoothed out that corner there. I'm not really sure that needs to be there, but other than that, it's good, really functional. He has thigh swivels. I'll say like a decent silhouette. It's definitely smoother here than like the 2.0 Goku. Double hinge knees, bend about 135 degrees. And finally, he has the 3.0 style ball hinge ankles, which work really well. There's going down, going up, and my favorite, the ankle pivot upper boot piece is free floating. Rotate it a little bit to align the hinge with the part where it's more cut out like this. And you can get some crazy ankle pivot, almost 90 degrees, which is awesome. And such an improvement over the Piccolo Proud Namekians. The toe hinge goes up, looks good, and points down a little bit, which I really like. And with those side splits and ankle pivot, we have a really impressive widest stance with feet flat on the floor. So what do I think of Nail overall? Let's start with the negatives. It's expensive. It was a premium Bandai exclusive, pushing like $80 US plus tax and shipping. So getting up to $100. And for Nail, I just think he's like a textbook premium Bandai release. Very niche, but done in such a way that we're not going to need another Nail. Don't bother giving him a subtitle. Very satisfying for people who want this character. So I guess that was a con that I kind of turned into a pro. Let's see, what else? Some squeaky joints in the shoulders and torso. He could maybe use a smirking expression, but I suppose you could borrow the one from Superhero Piccolo if you have that figure. And that's about all I can think of for cons. Getting into the pros, it's all the good parts of Piccolo Proud Namekian, with all the necessary character-specific changes and some nice improvements like in the shoulders and the ankles. The sculpt and paint, I think, are fantastic. The soft plastic overcoat might not be for everyone, but I think it works for how Nail wears it in the series. He doesn't fight in it. He could, in theory, or it could be blowing in the wind. I actually like the way they've done his collar. I can see some trade-offs between having it like pegged down so that it doesn't move around when being posed versus having it free-floating like they did it. And I think I would fall on the same side they did, leave it free-floating so that it doesn't get in the way of the neck articulation too much. And I know I'll be first in line once they start releasing more non-Namek characters, but I gotta say, I love Namek as well. And I especially love when a new figure can give me new ways to enjoy an existing figure like this first form Frieza, who has never really had a reason to do anything but sit in his pod. And this is pretty much the only character we see him fight other than I think Vegeta. I wish I had Dende to go with him, but I don't have space for that Purunga. Same goes for Guru. Those two are cutting a little too deep for me. It stinks I miss out on Dende, but it is what it is. That's, I guess, Tamashi's way of doing things. And who knows, they could release a separate one down the road. I don't know, maybe they'll age him up and do like the Guardian of Earth form. I would love for them to get that deep into the series. I'm not sure SH Figuarts is the right line for it though, just given how to do a niche character like this, they really have to do it up. Even Nail, who is a niche character, but at least he's a fighter in a shonen anime, they still have to put him on Premium Bandai and charge a steep price for him. I would love to have Kami, King Kai. He's kind of like otherworldly non-participant in the story, but they're still so important to it, I would like to have them. I'm not sure SHF is the right line for it. I've always wished that Dragon Stars would do more of the niche characters, or Figuarts would come up with their own sort of budget line. Minimal accessories, maybe less articulation, but just to have like a Figuarts scale, semi-articulated Kami figure that isn't a statue or from something else and is meant to go with your Figuarts. I think this line really needs that. I hope somebody makes that happen someday. But until then, the Premium Bandai $100 figure way is the only way. Another unfortunate part of Premium Bandai is I don't really see Nail ever going down in price. P Bandai figures rarely do, and especially when the figure turns out to be good, and doubly especially when it turns out to be good and people kind of slept on the pre-order for it. Personally, I think they should just freely re-release Premium Bandai figures. I don't collect for exclusivity, and I would just love for everybody to have access to great figures at any time. So there's my little SH Figuarts line management pitch. I'm curious what your ideas are, if you have any, for what you would like to see that maybe SH Figuarts is missing from the line that would really help it. An opportunity you would really like to see them go after. This has been the Art of Action Figures with the SHF Nail from Dragon Ball Z. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.